Let's get Deputy Political Editor Royston Sim in to weigh in on today's campaigning. Welcome, Royston. So, PAP's East Coast GRC team held an e-rally earlier today. DPM Heng, of course, a last-minute addition to the team, having moved from Tampines GRC. How hard is it for him to play catch-up compared to the other candidates in the team, like Maliki Osman, Jessica Tan and Cheryl Chan, who are more familiar with the residents and issues of East Coast?
Olivia, so definitely as a new candidate moving over from the neighbouring Tampines GRC, DPM Heng will need to play catch up. He will have to, he will need some time to get used to constituency. So that's why, pretty much since nomination day when we found out he was going to run as a candidate in East Coast, since then he's hit the ground running every day. He's been visiting different parts of the ward. He's been crisscrossing, the constituency. So one day he's in Bedok North, the next day he's in Bedok South, he's in Kampong Chai Chi, in Fengshan, basically going round the different parts of the GRC. He's gone, to visit markets, hawker centres, he's gone on house visits. And, he says that it's pretty much to get views from residents, to get feedback, and, this will help to bring him up to speed in terms of what are the issues that the residents in the ward are concerned about, what are their concerns, what do they want addressed. And I think the best way for him to do that, in this condensed period of time is really just to go out on the ground as much as possible. But that said, I think he has the advantage of having three incumbents on his team. As you mentioned, Ms. Cheryl Chan, Ms. Jessica Tan, and also, Dr. Maliki are all incumbent MPs. And so, he can tap on their experience and he would have, they would have some familiarity with the ward, what are the issues that matter. And, so he has their experience to tap on and they can help to bring him up to speed. And likewise, for the fifth candidate on the team, Mr. Tan Kiat Hao, who's also another new face for the PAP.
Royston, now still staying on East Coast, how is the battle for East Coast shaping up? We saw the candidates from PAP and Workers' Party at the same Bedok Hawker Centre this morning.
Well, Dylan, we're at about the halfway mark of the hustings right now, and I think campaigning-wise, both parties are ramping up the intensity. We're getting closer and closer to polling day. And for East Coast has been a hot ward. In 2011, the PAP got about 54.8% of the vote, and in 2015, they managed to increase their vote share to about 60.7 or so. And so they improved on that result in 2015, and so. But it was still, I think, among all the GRCs, that was still the smallest winning margin, because that in 2015, we saw an island-wide swing towards the PAP. So we still expect the ward to be, it will still be a tough battle. But certainly one thing that sort of swings things in the PAP's favour is the inclusion of DPM Heng on the slate. It was a move that people had speculated about, but it still came as a surprise to political watchers. The fact that the PAP would move one of its biggest guns over to East Coast to defend the constituency against the Workers' Party. I think it sends a signal. And I think it will present voters with a tough choice, because you have, say you're a swing voter, on one hand, you may be thinking about, having an opposition presence in Parliament. On the other, you have the future Prime Minister. And so you really need to think hard about your vote. And I think, having DPM Heng move in, will give voters a lot to think about, and it sort of tilts the balance towards the PAP. I mean, political watchers that we have spoken to think that the PAP has an edge, I think partly because of DPM Heng, and partly because based on 2015 results, the Workers' Party, I think, would need a 10.8% swing in votes to win the GRC, and that's a lot of ground to make up. Granted, their slate has, they have their own star power, mainly in the form of former NSP candidate Nicole Seah. She ran with the NSP in 2011, and she's now back in Workers' Party Blue. So, and she's still popular on the ground. People go up to her and talk to her, interact with her. So she has some star power there. But based on what we are hearing and based on what political analysts think, it seems that the PAP has an edge. And for the WP, they've been working very hard on the ground. Their party chief, Pritam Singh, has said that, the fact that the PAP has moved DPM Heng over, it's a recognition that of the strength of the WP slate. But I mean, I think the fact that they have DPM Heng to contend with now means they're going to face an uphill battle as we get towards polling day.
Right, for sure. Well, it's a very busy Saturday, Royston. There's only one weekend in the 9-day campaign period, today and tomorrow. So today we've seen several big guns walking the ground outside their own constituencies, lending their support. What does it say about where these big guns chose to show up, and how big of an impact does their presence have, you think?
So, I mean, we saw Workers' Party chief Pritam Singh, go to Marine Parade, and we mentioned earlier in the program that PM Lee went to join the Sengkang PAP team on their e-rally. So, party leaders, especially, for, say, PM Lee, they have star power and, they are vote pullers. So where the party deploys them is a signal of, where they expect the hot contest to be. They bring in their heavyweights to walk the ground, or in this case, for the Sengkang PAP team, to lend an online presence to try and, bring in more support for the team. So I think what this tells us, especially in the case of PM appearing in Sengkang, is that the PAP expects Sengkang to, they're expecting a tough fight in Sengkang. Reason being, there's a new four-man GRC. It comprises parts of Sengkang West, which the WP had contested in 2011, 2015, and they didn't do too badly. In 2011, the WP got 41.9%. In the single seat, and in 2015 this dipped to about 39.7%, but it was still about it's still a pretty credible showing. And the rest of the ward comprises part of the Sengkang area that was hived off from Pasir Ris Punggol GRC, but then there's also Punggol East, which the WP had won in the 2013 by-election with about 54.5% of the vote, and they only very narrowly lost it to Mr. Charles Chong in the 2015 general election. So what this says is that the WP has been walking the ground in Sengkang and in this overall Sengkang GRC. They are not unfamiliar names in the area, and so I think the PAP is expecting a tough contest. Also, the fact that they have on their slate is a lawyer He Ting Ru, who was one of the WP revelations in 2015, and also I guess the new WP sensation in 2020, which is economics professor James Lim. He's made quite a bit of a splash since he appeared in the debate on Wednesday last week. Yep. And so during the rally, PM basically gave his endorsement to the PAP candidates. He vouched for their capability, he vouched for their ability to get things done, and he basically talked up the candidates. And so where the party leaders go, I think signals where they're expecting strong contest, and that's where the action is going to be.
Well, thanks very much for your time, Roy. We've been speaking to Deputy Political Editor at the Straits Times, Royston Sim.